Yo, what's going on, boys? It's your big man back today for a very special video. Today we have the 500 subscriber special, Five Nights at Freddy's top 10 figure list redone. Because the original one I did was pretty terrible, and it really didn't have the best figures on the list. So starting at number 10, we have Glam Rock Freddy. Now, you may be thinking, why is he here? Well, I actually wasn't even gonna put him on the list because I really didn't like this figure originally, but looking at it more and kind of now that we have more trailers for Security Breach, I'm getting hyped for it. And looking back at it, the design fits pretty decently, other than the only part I don't like, the head, the kind of reused head. I really don't like that head. But I still think the rest of the figure is really nice. There's a lot of new sculpting and new pieces that they used on this guy. And he has a very unique look too, so he kind of grew on me just a tiny bit. Still don't think it's the best figure, but really not bad. So that was number 10 on the list. Coming around to number 9, maybe or may not a surprise, we have Rockstar Freddy from the original Pizzeria Simulator wave. Now this guy, he's a classic figure, and I always really did like the design. I think it's not super close to the original. Well, it's good, but it's not completely true to it. But I still do really like the figure look, and the figure itself is very high quality. The articulation on this guy is really good. The paint and sculpt also to match. I like the kind of shiny bow tie and hat. I think it looks really good, and the paint they used looks really good. Because most of the time when Funko makes figures like this, if it's not a Freddy, they really don't do high quality for it. And even now, sometimes they're not even doing high quality for anything. But I think they did a really good job on this entire wave. I think that the whole Pizzeria Simulator wave is a very good wave, especially the Freddy. He has a nice look to him, and actually, he is one of the better Freddy figures we have because the articulation is good. And this was the point where they were promoting mixing and matching for the figures, so the joints were good enough where if it fell apart, they wouldn't break, and it wasn't too tight that you couldn't get them off. So that is number 9 on the list. Great Freddy figure. So coming in at number 8, it's kind of a 2-figure combination. It's Springtrap. Well, it's only Springtrap. And then the custom, of course, has to make an appearance. Ooh. So this figure definitely would have been higher up on the list if it came out later in the line. Because when this figure originally came out, the paint and sculpt on the figures weren't that good, except for Springtrap. Springtrap probably had the best sculpt out of all of the FNAF figures at the time. And he's still even better than some of the ones they're releasing today. The only problem is the articulation was really bad, and you're lucky if the figure stays together. Like you can see, he falls apart. They're really not the best quality when they originally came out, but this was definitely the best one. And I think if you do a little customization like that, you could turn him into an amazing figure who looks great on display. But he really isn't the best figure-wise, because the quality is pretty bad, and even over time, the plastic kind of gets dirty and wears down, and it really just isn't the best quality, and the figure falls apart really easily. It could break really easily because the joints on these arms, this one even kind of looks a little cracked, but a lot of the time the joints on the inside here, these ones crack and break, and that's how the figure gets really loose and falls apart even easier than they already do. But I still think this was a great figure for when it came out, and even number 7 on the list. Great figure. Harder to find now because if you can't really get the original wave, the re-releases are kind of everywhere. But even if you can't find that, the re-release one, which is what I used for the customs, really isn't that bad. The paint and sculpt, or the paint on that one looks terrible, and it has that weird sticky stuff all over it. But if you don't mind that, it's a great figure to pick up. Great. Number 7 coming in is one that was recently redone, a review. Funtime Freddy This is a great figure. The paint and sculpt on this guy is pretty much unmatched. And I think the accuracy is amazing on this one. I think this is probably the closest they've ever gotten to the look for a figure to in-game. With all the high details, and it's actually accurate, and it has all the things he has in the game. Sometimes they leave out stuff for no reason, or a lot of what they like to do is add extra details for some reason. They enjoy doing that. Funko likes it, but I personally do not. And I think this is a figure that definitely got better from not having that. The bonbon is great. It's like two figures in one practically. And all the paint sculpt looks great on this figure. There's no real things that would need to be changed on him because it's just that good. I think the articulation was the best at this time. They even had like, no other figure can look up that high. No other figure can even move their head this good. And then all the joints are sturdy and tough. And they even put the painted joints, which is the first time and pretty much the only time they've ever done that. And this wave itself was just very, very high quality. So now moving, Funtime Freddy. Don't drop him. Moving on to number 6. We have Nightmare Freddy. Now this figure is pretty hard to find, and even if you can find one, they are extremely expensive. But I'm not sure if it's going to be like that for long, because with the way Funko is doing it, they're probably going to re-release the wave. So I guess sell it while you can if you want to. But this guy right here ain't getting sold. This is a great figure. And even the base figure, because I customized this one too. A lot of these I don't have the actual original of, because I could not find another one. But this figure is really good, even just as the normal one. The paint was good on him. The sculpt is great. I think they did a lot of good detail with him. And Nightmare Freddy kind of has a goofy looking design normally, but I think they really made it look good in figure form. The head looks great. A lot of high detail. The teeth and the eyes. The deathly red eyes. Yeah, that's kind of scary. But it's scary good. Ooh. I think the design they went with is great. And he even comes with a little Freddle, which I have no idea where he is right now, but he does come with one. So he even comes with accessories. That's a hard thing to come by now. But this figure is definitely great. And for the Nightmare wave, he is top tier in that wave. Except for the couple that we also have coming, because that wave was a very good wave. Probably one of the best FNAF waves. Getting this guy out of the way now. Gotta find some place to put him. Coming in to number 5. Number 5, we have another Nightmare animatronic. We have Nightmare Foxy. Now this guy definitely deserves to be top tier in this list. He is an amazing figure. I think with all the detail they put into these guys, they definitely are worth the money they go for now. Because the paint and sculpt is just so good. They did so good on this wave. And then they barely released it. I remember they got released I think once, and then that was it. Because I've never seen them ever again afterwards. Which is a shame, because they're really, really amazing figures. I think the detail and sculpt on them is way worth it. It's definitely way higher quality than the usual. And even what they're doing now, there's not much attention to detail like in these figures. There's even wear and tear on the fingers and on the hands. The detail they went into is just great. And the quality at that time for the second wave is when they kind of went overboard on tightening the joints. But that just made it so even now, years later, the joints are still all fresh. And he can still hold a nice pose if you have him running at something. It's still a great figure and holds its quality all these years later. Getting him out the way. Running out of space to put these guys over here. Now we have number 4 is Lefty. And I was considering putting Lefty and Funtime Freddy in the same slot because they're pretty much the same figure. But I was thinking that the sculpt, well, not the sculpt, the paint difference, I think makes it so that this guy is just a little bit better. Because I love the black, like the black Freddy look. I think it looks great. It reminds me kind of Venom. I like the Venom style kind of thing. The red, I think that's red. Red hat and bow tie also look great. with the shiny plastic or shiny paint. I think they look really good. And the red all over him really complements it really well. And I just really like the design of this figure. And it still does hold all the points that the Fun Time or the Rockstar Freddy did, of great articulation, great sculpt, a lot of accuracy. The only big problem is he's supposed to be lefty, like left-handed, but he's right-handed holding the microphone. I think they could have done that little bit of difference, but I know usually they don't change much for their not customs, but for their exclusives. They did change that now though with the Freddy Frost Bear. He is a completely new sculpt, and I do not have him. Still looking for him. About to buy him off eBay. But Lefty is still a great figure and one of the best exclusives we have. And now he's becoming a lot more accessible. His prices have gone down a whole lot, so now a whole lot more people can get him and get access to this actually great figure. For some honorable mentions here, I had to do it because there are so many great figures in this line. It was so hard to even make this list because each of these figures could be number one. Because I think the quality throughout the few waves that are great really stuck. Like, those figures were great, and they're all great quality. So for the first honorable mention, we have the original Golden Freddy. Now this guy, the figure is pretty terrible, but I do really like the design. The sculpt looks good, and I think the dirty kind of yellow, it really fits and makes a perfect Golden Freddy. I think this was probably one of the best figures of Wave 1 besides Springtrap. But he's still a great figure, 100% honorable mention. So next, a sleeper figure that I really never thought about in the past, but seeing it now I really like, is the original Baby. Now this figure, originally I didn't really like it because I didn't like Baby that much. Kind of a weird design. But I think the figure has a lot of great sculpt on it, a lot of high detail for a character which at the time I didn't know was going to be the next big thing, but really kind of was. And they put a lot of effort into the figure, and I think it turned out very, very well. So, next one. This is more the whole wave, but I only kind of pulled out two figures. It's the Black Light series. I think this whole wave of figures was a really good job. It was a nice, kind of refreshing, interesting new way to look at the original figures. And when they re-released them, they definitely upped the quality on everything, so it's a lot better. The figures don't fall apart. They look I think they look really good with the black light colors. I think it's kind of a funky thing that I like. It's interesting. I like pretty colors too. Bright, vibrant colors are pretty, you know, the usual. And the only problem with this wave is that some of the figures didn't come with accessories. Like the Bonnie did not come with a guitar, which was kind of weird because he's just standing there now. You can't really pose him doing anything because he doesn't have a guitar. And I'm not sure if the Freddy came with a microphone. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. So he might have, but might not have. All right, for the last honorable mention, it is Nightmare Bonnie. Now this figure is great. His eyes may look funny. He's a custom that I never ended up finishing. I still have to go back and do that. That is not the reason he's an honorable mention though. The figure itself, it has problems that make it a lot worse than the other figures in the wave. Like the way his head is, it's kind of infinitely looking up, and you have to pose him leaning forward more to look normal. But it does actually end up looking good in the pose. It's just when you want to have him standing up, you really can't because he looks straight up and kind of doesn't even balance. And I'm not sure if this is only mine, but he's always had a rattle in his head, like something's broken. I don't know if you could hear it or not, but he's always had that rattle, like something's been broken. Even straight out of box, he always had that weird rattle. I'm not sure what it is, but he's always had it, and it's always kind of been weird because the head doesn't move really good. And I'm thinking maybe is that the peg broke in the head or something like that. I'm not sure. He's just our last honorable mention. So now, going back for our number 3 spot on the list, it is a tie between Nightmare Chica, get it in frame there, and Jacko Chica. These are the best figures in the FNAF, well, I was going to say FNAF 2, but it's really FNAF 4 wave, which was wave 2, but yeah, never mind. This is really the best, these are really the best figures in the FNAF 4 wave. The paint and sculpt on these figures is really great. I customized that Chica, so we'll use this one as an example, but I still believe the paint and sculpt on this is amazing. They really did just a great job with all the high detail on the sculpts, all the sharp points and curves. What do you even call these things? The bib looks great. It actually looks like tattered bib stuff. I don't know, what do you make a bib out of? But it looks great. The sculpt is amazing. The high detail, even like a pumpkin on the back. Got the eyes and the nose and the mouth looking good. All the detail, the attention to detail too. With the head being light brick or something like that. I'm not sure what it's called, but the light can go through it and it'll glow if you have a light behind it. And I would do that, but the light actually has been turned off this whole time. So here, you can see the orange is glowing through the back of the head. Gives it that jack-o'-lantern look. And I think that's really cool that they gave it to him, and that it just adds that extra bit of Halloweenness to it. And even the Nightmare Chica too. I customized this one and it looks even better with just a little bit of customizing. But normally the figure had such a good, dirty look over it. It looks like they actually put a wash on the figure. And it just gave it that great quality. It's even got the Nightmare Cupcake in the hand. The only problem would be that it's not removable. That would be the only plus, is if the figure's accessory was removable. And if the Build-A-Figure could stand up with his wave. That's the only problem. All right. So moving on to number 2 on the list. We're getting to the top now. Things are starting to get a little feisty over here. These are probably predictable ones, but for number 2, we have Eren. This is literally one of the best FNAF figures of all time. I gotta say, it's on top 10 on the list. It's number 2. It's a great figure. It's the paint and sculpt is amazing, even on the normal figure, because you can see I started customizing it and then stopped because I thought I had the wrong paint, but it seems like after a year or 2 later it has dried, so maybe I'll go back to it. But the paint, sculpt, and detail on it is just amazing. All the wires and the eyeballs and everything in it, it all looks good. And for a Build-A-Figure, it's above good quality. The sculpt goes all around too. All new parts. Look at that eyeball just staring at you. The back of the head looks great. They even gave him the little eyeball hanging out the side. The clown mask looking good. It would have been even better if they could have somehow figured it out to make the mask open. Even if it was just like one side or something, that would have been great. But even already normally, this is an amazing figure. I think for when this figure came out, easily the best figure in the entire wave, or in the entire whole line of figures. This was easily the best. And it wasn't even like the wave it came in was a bad wave. That wave was great too. The sister location wave was amazing. And even every single figure in that wave was good. And the Build-A-Figure was even better than every single figure in that wave. It was an amazing wave. But sadly, it was more the downfall in the line. Because after sister location, there was Pizzeria Simulator, which was great. And then it all went downhill. But this was still a great figure to get out of it. Paint and sculpt's unbelievable. Even the likeness is great. They got the kind of stringy, put together look just down with this guy. And even the fact that the wave had one less figure, because they put both legs with Ballora, I think. They even might have put both arms with the character. Oh no, it was both arms and the legs came separate. That's what it was. But that was a great wave with less figures than usual and even better Build-A-Figure than usual. It's just an amazing wave. I'm not sure how much it is now to get these figures. I really haven't looked that up. But if you can find them for a pretty reasonable price, 100% a get. This is an amazing figure with an amazing wave to go with it. So now coming down to number 1. It is probably predictable because I even kind of mentioned the wave that this figure is from. But it is Scrap Baby. Now, it was hard for me to decide whether to put Scrap Baby or Eren at number 1. It was really an interchangeable list. Either one of them is great. But I had to just take a good look at it, see that the paint sculpt on this figure is just unbelievable. So I had to put this one at number 1. Just bringing them up close to see all the great sculpt on this figure, all the high detail. And it's actually really accurate too. They did a really good job recreating the look from the game. I think this is 100% the best Funko figure. Well, I could probably even say that because they don't make much better figures than this. The best Funko figure of all time, but the best FNAF figure of all time, easily. The only problem that I could even think of with this figure is that the neck is kind of weird. They made the peg way too big to fit into the head, so you had to just fight it on there. It can cause the head to not move right, and even the peg in the neck to come out. Well, if mine's not going to do it, I'm not going to pull it. But the ball joint that's connected to the body would pull out, and the head would just be sitting there like floating. And that was the really only issue with the figure. But other than that, the detail on the arms is amazing. Even on the legs, the torso's got all that machinery going on with the stuff that looks like it's from Black Ops 3. Some sort of boss zombie. The big hand is great. The claw, the Mr. Krabs claw looks good. The only problem is, I don't know if this is intentional, but the skirt piece is kind of off-center. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like that or not, but mine is. Kind of upsetting, but still doesn't take away from the figure. Even the sculpting in the hair, the metal wires coming through, all of the paint, that's the different colors in the hair and everything. Usually that's terrible because Funko sucks at doing details and paint, but for this figure, oh! Oof, good thing that didn't fall, but for this figure, they did an amazing job. Except for making it stand and not fall down the abyss. But we're good. We're good. Mama, we good. Alright, guys. That has been the top 10 FNAF figures list. And I do have to have a little moment here and say thank you, everybody, for all the support we've been getting recently is unbelievable. We've been getting so many subscribers, views, everything. It's unbelievable. Thank you guys so much. And I'm hoping now that we can keep going and truck from 500 to 1,000 subscribers like it's nothing. We gotta double it like it's nothing. It's like going Super Saiyan, 50 times power. We're going in. But thank you guys so much for watching. This has been the top 10 list. If you think one of these figures were wrong or I forgot something, put it in the comments. See what you say. I'll see what you guys say, what figures you guys like in the line. Because I like all of them. I think so many of these figures could have been higher up placed or lower. They were really all interchangeable. And there are even so many figures that I didn't even mention that are so good in this line. It's just an amazing line. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.